Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name's Louisa. I'm one of the executive directors here at Sheffield Chamber. I'm also the co-chair of Sheffield Business Together, along with my good colleague Martin Singer, who's disappeared off my screen now. Martin, give us a wave.
Morning, everyone. Nice to meet you and thanks for joining us.
It's lovely to have you all with us this morning. We are going to take the opportunity this morning to just explain a little bit more about Sheffield Business Together. You may be aware in July we launched a partnership with Sheffield Business Together and Sheffield Chamber, and this morning we're going to have the opportunity to hear from some recipients and some contributors. So we're going to be hearing from Carolyn and Paul, who are Sheffield Business Together ambassadors, Lee and Tanya from Longley College, Sally from Shirecliff Meadows, and Jack from Henry Boo. It is going to be an interactive session, so we will have the opportunity to ask questions after each contributor, and there's a couple of polls that we're going to ask as well. So just in terms of housekeeping, just to make you aware, we are recording the session. So if you're putting any washing on or doing anything like that, you might want to turn your video off. Otherwise, that'll be captured and streamed on the Sheffield Chamber YouTube channel, and you might not want that. But if you want to use the chat, if you want anything qualifying or want to ask any questions, please use the chat box, and I'll do my best to make sure that everybody gets their questions answered. So just in terms of the context of this morning, really, as we all know, the last 18 months have been an extremely difficult 18 months for all sectors, but particularly for the voluntary charity sector. And I know it's a bit of a cliched quote, but we've all been in the same storm, but we've definitely not all been in the same boat. So I think whilst it's been really challenging, it's also been really heartwarming seeing the response from the business community. Personally, for me, I've been absolutely staggered by the number of businesses, particularly in the chamber network, that have stepped up and said, what can we do and how can we help? Carolyn and I first met maybe 3 years ago at a networking event where Carolyn was talking about the need to coordinate charity activity in Sheffield, that lots of great activity was happening, but it was happening in silos. Unfortunately, Carolyn, through the support of DWP, has been seconded with business in the community to help set up Sheffield Business Together, and Voluntary Action Sheffield have been there from the beginning to help get this partnership off the ground. We were very fortunate to have John Lewis, Arm, Henry Boo, Arup, Irwin Mitchell and Benchmark as founding members that all contributed to help support the work and underpin, really financially underpin the staff to help make the programmes happen. We're going to hear more about the pillars in which we operate. There's 4 pillars we operate. Operating in education, environment, voluntary sector, sustainability and social mobility. And you'll have the opportunity to hear from some of the people that have been benefits of Sheffield Business Together and some of the people that have contributed to understand why it's a great thing to do as an organisation. And then there's the opportunity at the end to ask any questions and find out more. So I'm not going to take up too much time because there's lots of other people who've got lots more interesting things to say than me. So I will do my best to keep us to time and share screen and do the polls and all those kind of things. But bear with us if we have slight technical glitches or slight technical hitches. We will do our best. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Carolyn, who's just going to give us a bit of an overview of Sheffield Business Together's mission and a bit more information about the steering group and the work that we do. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Lou. Can everybody see that slide on screen? Yeah, it's nice to see some familiar faces. And apologies if you've all heard this pitch before. I'm sure some of you will have. As Lou mentioned, I'm on secondment to business in the community. And if people don't know who business in the community are, they're the sort of largest and oldest business-led membership organisation who are dedicated to responsible business. They were set up by Prince Charles around 40 years ago, and they work with members, probably over 50% of the FTSE 100, to continually improve the responsible business practice and leverage the collective impact for the benefit of communities. So as Lou said, I met her about 3 years ago, and focus of my secondment since 2019 has been on helping establish and run Sheffield Business Together with all the businesses on the steering group that are represented there, and with Paul from Voluntary Action Sheffield, and latterly in our great partnership with the Chamber that happened in July. So Sheffield Business Together came about because Sheffield's got a fantastic history of philanthropy. You know, businesses in our city have really got a heart. And I think the businesses who formed our founding membership and are on our steering group realised that whilst everybody did lots to engage and support the voluntary sector and around education, there were probably a greater need for a more strategic focus about bringing those like-minded businesses together to be more than the sum of the parts, and to more strategically connect across sectors for where it were needed most. And so in March 2019, Sheffield Business Together was launched. And I think our mission's outlined there on the slide, but what we've tried to do is, we knew we were pushing at an open door, and we've tried to make it really easy for businesses to get involved. We've got really good partnerships with our schools, colleges and charities. And we've tried to just make giving easy. But what we have focused on is trying to target that resource where it's needed most. And let me just get the next slide up. There we are. So what we did is, at the outset, we took insight from some of the key stakeholders around the city. We looked at the State of Sheffield report, and we said, how can Sheffield Business Together be different? How can we focus that activity where it's needed most? And we came up with 4 key campaigns: social mobility, voluntary sector sustainability and social action, and environment. Now I'm going to talk around social mobility and environment, and then I'll hand over to Paul to cover off voluntary sector sustainability and social action. So social mobility, I don't know whether you are aware, but Sheffield is 100 in terms of the league table of children being not in employment, being NEET, not in employment, education or training. We're 121 out of 151 local authorities. So in terms of the need, we needed to focus that business engagement where we needed. So we partnered with Sheffield Hallam University, with the Careers and Enterprise, and we looked at the indices of multiple deprivation, the social mobility map, and we've developed a deep partnership with one college at Longley, who are going to be speaking later about their experience of being involved with Sheffield Business Together, and then 3 other schools, which are Fairvale, Park Academy, Springs Academy, and we're just looking at onboarding the college. It's totally gone out of my mind where that is. It'll come back to me. Sheaf Training, or a specialist vocational college. So what we've done is developed a partnership. We've put an enterprise advisor into the schools and colleges to understand the needs. And what we've done is brokered business engagement in outreach with those schools and colleges, because all the evidence shows that if students have 4 or more encounters with an employer, they're 84% less likely to be NEET. So I think we've brokered over 54 opportunities, from World of Work visits. We brought the kids at Longley into DWP Digital. We played a game, showed them how we developed digital applications. We've done mentoring, we've done mock interviews, my line of work. We've supported internships, done lots and lots around that, and it's making a real difference. And we really want you to get involved if you're not already in this agenda, and there'll be a poll after we've heard from Longley, just to gauge your interest in what you want to get involved in. The other key campaign that I have been involved with is environment. Like in a lot of major cities, air quality is a major problem, even in a green city like Sheffield. So it was just total serendipity how this came about, as we were looking at what our key campaigns should be around environment, in addition to you know, all the other things about sustainability and, you know, encouraging recycling. The Go Green project at Hunters Bar School was launching to put a green fence, a 60-metre green fence in the playground to block and absorb traffic pollution. So we sort of got involved with that and supercharged the delivery. And working with the environmental scientists at Sheffield University, we engaged businesses, and I think overall we had 50 organisations involved, and their in-kind support amounted to about 74,000. So we've got an environmental scientist monitoring the impact of that green fence, which consisted of 3 layers, ivy, herbaceous shrubs and conifers. And it was really clever actually how they did it. They knew what plants absorbed those particulates in the air at the school. But it was such an amazing example of businesses, the community, the school coming together for a greater good. And we really wanted to scale that. And we've got 10 more schools on our hit list, and then COVID hit. And obviously the focus of schools now is to, you know, well, they need to concentrate on the curriculum and catch up. But we have still, you know, got that in the pipeline. So what we're doing around environment also, since we partnered with the Chamber, is we're bringing the Chamber, Sheffield Business Together. And I don't know whether people are aware of the Sheffield Sustainability Network, which is like a grassroots organisation of predominantly small, medium employers, well, probably micro SMEs who have gotten together to look at how we make Sheffield sustainable. And in response to COP26, we're looking at organising a joint event to help businesses share tips around how we, you know, good practice around achieving net zero and biodiversity. And we're looking at doing that in October. So I'm conscious that I'm probably out of time. But yeah, just wanted to mention just a couple of other things that we're doing to pique your interest. So we've been really responsive to world events. And at the beginning of the pandemic, we started a financial campaign, which I'm going to mention because I'm really proud of. And we identified that the biggest need in the city was food. And so we asked all our businesses to get their people who weren't travelling to work to donate either a week's petrol or parking or bus fares. And we've managed to raise 152,000 so far on that campaign. And it was for the Sheffield network of 16 food banks, and it's still ongoing. And it were an enormous support. And we also partnered with business in the community and brought 10 massive food donations into the city during that time that benefited around 70 charities. And the other thing we're doing that's probably not on Paul's list to mention is around diversity and inclusion. We've run 3 events to take businesses on a journey around diversity and inclusion and start a dialogue about how they can be more diverse and inclusive and the benefits of doing so. And on the back of those events, there were a real appetite from businesses to share what they're doing and accelerate learning around this agenda. So we're planning on launching a diversity and inclusion business network across Yorkshire. Right, I'm sure I'm out of time. So I'll hand over now to Longley Park, to Ed and Tanya, to just talk about their experiences of partnering with Sheffield Business Together and some of what the benefits to them and their students has been.
Hi, Carolyn, I'm really sorry. Could we possibly just shuffle? I know this looks terrible, but we're having some technical problems here. So Tanya's not been able to get into the call yet.
Don't worry, that's fine. I'll shuffle things around.
Is that all right? Thank you so much.
Of course it is. No worries at all. So in fact, actually then, let's come to you, Paul. Where are you on my screen? If we can come to you, Paul, that'd be great. And then we can come back to Lee and Tanya when they've got sorted. They are in a college this morning and all sorts of things happen in colleges and so on. So we'll forgive them. They've got a much more dynamic moving environment than the rest of us.
Yeah, thanks for that. Well, welcome everyone. It is great to see everyone. And yes, my name's Paul. I'm head of volunteering at FAST. And and for me, Sheffield Business Together has come out of long-standing work that we've done in the city, enabling volunteering and enabling businesses to engage in volunteering. And over the sort of years, we've run a number of different employee volunteering projects, but actually SBT is something really special, and it's not just special for Sheffield; it's special actually nationally. It's a really kind of pioneering program, and I think the reason why we feel it's so important is that, as I know that you will do, is that we need a really strong Sheffield. We all need a really strong Sheffield, and actually business is a key part of that, but it's one part of it. We've got the public sector, we've got the voluntary sector, and you'll all be aware of the impact that the voluntary sector has played a really leading role in the COVID recovery and mobilising. If you think about who ran all of the mutual aid groups, what happened with mutual aid, what happened with all of the food banks, actually to some extent it was the voluntary sector leading and pushing and urging the council to get on up to speed and start enabling resource, whilst actually the voluntary sector was just mobilising, making a difference and connecting in communities straight away. One, in urgent response, we're really quick and nimble to respond, but two, in providing a good quality experience. And I think, without the voluntary sector, you just dread to think what would have happened. The consequence of this is that demand for the voluntary sector services has just skyrocketed, and funding and resource has gone down. So you kind of got this, the voluntary sector is particularly in this awful situation where demand is at its highest ever level whilst resources are at its lowest. And there are serious challenges facing the city, both in terms of sustainability of the sector and the impact that would have if where charities would fold. And so what our ask from businesses is, how can you collaborate with us? The voluntary sector's got huge amounts of expertise, but given that there's sort of 3,000 charities in the city, so many are very small. So they've got a huge amount of expertise in terms of how they engage with the charities, how they engage with the clients they work, but they may not have some of the business expertise that you have. And so for us, there's an opportunity to focus on high skills, high value stuff that actually is what charities are looking for. So when we ask the sector what they want, people are looking for skills. They're looking for support with marketing, support with HR, support with legal, support with larger scale projects. Team days don't really figure very high on the list. So we're not really looking for organising a team day of 10 staff, next week, which is what at VALS we get those calls every week. Can you organise a jolly for our 20 staff next week for nothing? That's a whole piece of work that we'd rather not field. But if you've got skills that you know are valuable, that you think actually I can make a difference to a charity, those are the sort of things that charities are looking for us for. So we're charity led, we're needs led rather than business kind of like request led. But if you've got offers, get in touch with us and we can see how we can connect that to have impact. And just to give you a flavour of some of the things that have happened, some of them are really huge, some of them are really kind of bespoke. So for example, actually, I don't know, Jack probably won't mention this, but Henry Boo helped us sort a spreadsheet out. Tiny little thing for someone who's got those spreadsheet skills, but we couldn't get this spreadsheet to link up and connect and do our monitoring for us. And someone spent like a few hours sorting that out for us. Now that's the sort of magic we're looking at, where it would take days and days and have a huge impact for us as a charity not working that out. And it's a few hours work for someone who's got the skills. Another thing would be Adira. It's a survivor-led charity with somebody who's they're volunteering, they're not getting paid to do their work, but they had the opportunity to take up a contract. Now, Ursula had no idea whether the contract she was given was what it meant. She's an expert in what she does. She's not a contract lawyer. And so we got a contract lawyer to review it and explain in plain English what it meant and whether it was useful. That's absolute gold. Not a lot of time for that charity. That was Erwin Mitchell who did that, but a huge impact. And the same with, I think, we've got Highlander on the call here again. They've done phenomenal work with City of Sanctuary, small charity that you may not have heard of, but they support refugees, and they're part of our city infrastructure, where they provide a resource where asylum seekers, refugees can get connected through other services. And we need that space to be good. And Highlander have played a significant role there in enabling that. Jack at Henry Boot, they've been hugely involved in it too. But one of the things that for us at SBT and the role of VAS is playing is actually there are big charities in the city and medium charities in the city who've got really good networks. They're well connected. They can lever in resource because they've got colleagues or businesses on the board. What we want in the city is a really more equal society where actually it's the smaller charities like Adira at Ursula or City of Sanctuary, who don't have connections with businesses. And that's the role that we play, is in enabling those charities to kind of find out what asks they could have and then link up businesses. So another one of those is the Modern Slavery campaign. I hope you've received information about that. That again, it's an under the radar issue that people are just not aware of. And City Hearts, not a massive charity, quite a reasonable sized charity in the city, not a hugely well known one. But one of the roles of SBT is actually raising awareness of what's happening and what the great things that charities are doing, escalating those smaller charities and enabling you to make a difference. And as a head of volunteering, I'm passionate about the impact of volunteering. There's huge amounts of research about how doing good is good for you. Doing good makes a difference. And actually for employees, we kind of, when we ran our strategy in 2017, 2018, loads of businesses were saying, we want to volunteer, but it's really tough. What can we do that has value in 7 hours a year? And that's not easy. And it takes a lot of work for us to craft and create opportunities. But I just think, actually, there are ways that your business, your employees and you can have a real positive difference, and they get that benefit of knowing that you've made a difference to the community. So that's the work that we're into, empowering you in a way that's mutually beneficial. So, yeah, there's high skill staff, mentoring, trustees, and then some of our flagship stuff that we do less on is like the large scale collaborative projects, which are just huge impact and enable many businesses to get together on. So that's one of the things I want to tell Sally about, let Sally speak about, because Meadows Nursery is one of the things that's just phenomenal. But I'll just say, last year our headline was we did 52 projects, leveraged in nearly £250,000 of resource, and 46 charities benefited. This year, since April, I think we've hit that already. So the scale of requests is growing, the scale of offers is coming. So we're really looking for businesses to get involved and work with us on how we can make a difference. So I'll hand over to Sally. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. That's smashing. Thank you, Carolyn, as well. Thank you for your overview. And that's really helpful, Paul. And I think just for everyone's benefit, one of the reasons why we were so keen to partner with the Sheffield Chamber is so that we would have more businesses to ask, more businesses to make that request of. Before we move on, does anybody have any questions or comments on what we've heard so far? It's okay if you don't, but just before, I just want to check if anybody, let me just check my other screen as well, if anyone's got hands up or comments. Okay, so nothing pressing at this point, that's great. Sam, could we run our first poll now? And then we'll hear from Sally.
Yeah, no problem. Question 1 on the poll has been launched.
Okay, thank you. Well, that was straightforward. So just that one question there, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, that's lovely.
Can you see the result? Can everyone see results?
No, that's okay. Okay, that's smashing. Thank you. I don't know if we've got Longley Park yet. So I know that question was kind of linked to the educational piece, but I think everybody's got enough of an understanding to be able to answer that question without having heard from them. So that's fine. Oh, we're here. I can see you. Hello. Oh, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
If you're happy, we're going to come straight to you if that's okay, because then you're just going to give us an overview of why you embraced the Sheffield Business Together partnership and what impact it's had for your students.
Fab, and thank you so much for having us. Sorry about our technical glitch. There's always one, isn't there, that it all goes very wrong. My name's Tanya. I'm the careers leader and assistant principal here at Longley Park Sixth Form. And by my side is Lee Moore, who is our new careers coordinator. So I'm going to read on my own. I've got somebody that's working alongside me. We first became involved with SBT when we won through a trailblazer invite to put forward a reason why Longley Park Sixth Form should be at the heart of employers and Sheffield Business Together, and what benefit that we could actually gain from working with SBT. As an educational institution, all educational institutions are sending out invites and requests to all businesses asking for exactly the same thing. So we're asking for the things that have just come up on the screen about CV support, internships, etc., etc. And we thought that this is a fantastic opportunity to get a unique network that was at the fingertips of Carolyn, who's been absolutely amazing. And I have to say a really massive thank you for Carolyn, because the amount of work and effort that she's put into supporting Longley Park has been absolutely amazing and has reaped amazing rewards for our students. Longley Park Sixth Form, very briefly, was set up in 2004, and it was a result of lobbying from the local community, head teachers, and from the local MPs, because there was no Sixth Form Plus provision this side of the city. Many students come from families this side of the city that don't have people necessarily even in employment. We are one of the most deprived wards in Sheffield, but also nationally. We feature very high in the most deprived areas. So having Carolyn connecting us up to lots of different businesses and getting opportunities for young people that have never had those opportunities before has really turned the fortunes of many. Each year, since 2004, we now get about 300 people into university. And that connection is even more now that we're working with Sheffield Business Together, understanding how companies and employers coalesce, what makes a really good company, all the different factions and all the different strings that you can pull together within a company, and the students understanding that if you're going to be an architect, and so we have been working with Karen Mosley, HLM Architects, about, you know, there isn't just one job in an architect's office, there are hundreds. And so the people that are now applying to university, thanks to the connection that we had with Sheffield Business Together and the very firm relationships that we've grown with the different businesses, means that students aren't just applying for architecture per se at university. They're looking at all of the other different roles that they may not have known before, having not worked with employers and with big institutions before. So that is a real benefit. Secondary benefits, such as having externals coming in to support our students doing interview practice. It's all very well me popping in and they know me and me sitting there pretending to be an employer, but the actual impact of young people having to dress up in suits and smart clothing to sit in front of somebody that they hadn't really met before with a brief about what they're being interviewed for. The power of that is huge, and it's really quite heartwarming to see 30 young people suddenly arrive in the building where we don't have a uniform, our dress code is very informal, but they're there really purposeful, and all of those activities, which features large across the 1,200 young people that we have in the building, means that we are now preparing students in real time for the world of work. It's really important that instead of having meeting the Gatsby benchmarks, which are the 8 compulsory benchmarks that the government has put in place, it's really important that they meet them with real vigour and making sure that we are very mindful that this is not a tick box exercise where we're just having somebody come in and saying, hi, I am this and this is my job. In actual fact, it gives us an opportunity for students to be suitably prepared, making sure that they know what they're going to be walking into. They know that they're prepared with questions and everything else. So it's a really purposeful meeting. I do know of other places where sometimes it has become a bit of a tick box. You know, I've ticked off Gatsby benchmark 3, 4, and 5. I don't need to do any more. For us, it's building sustainable relationships and also making sure it's real experiences for young people. So I think that's where we're at. I mean, the benefit, sadly, the pandemic really interrupted our programme, because in the very much before we went into our first lockdown, we had a year-long calendared programme which Carolyn was aware of, and where she could support us getting all of those people in place. And that's where Lee and I are working closely together this year to make sure that we have a similar calendar, and working closely with SBT, but also with the Chamber as well, making sure that we're getting something which is robust, exciting, useful, purposeful, and something that is really very much preparing our young people in a real way to move into the world of work. I'm very guilty of hogging airtime, so I'm going to turn to Lee, who's just behind me. We won't shuffle seats because that could be quite awkward, but I will try and push back and Lee can push forward. So Lee is now our careers coordinator, and he can tell you about the work that he's been recently doing.
Oh, good morning, everybody. Hopefully you can all hear me. Pop in the chat if you can't. Great, thank you. One of the things that I really want to focus on is building not just one-off activities where somebody comes in and does a session on interviewing, or as Sanya said, because those aren't hugely valuable. But actually what I'm wanting to build is more long-term relationships between us and local employers. I want to look creatively at how we can build relationships together, and ideally look at working on projects that are slightly longer term. So rather than coming in and spending half an hour with a small group of students, we actually have a project, whether it can be arts-based, business-based, however it works best, that actually runs over a period of weeks and actually gives the young people repeated opportunities to engage with employers and employees from local businesses, hopefully in ways that benefit both us as an education institution, the students, and actually also local businesses as well. One of the key words with the Gatsby benchmarks, which is when you're doing anything with an educational setting, you'll hear those phrases a lot, is that the encounters with, whether it's with higher education or employers, is meaningful. And what I want to work on is actually making those encounters meaningful, both for us and for local employers as well. So in some ways, I am about making contacts a curriculum area might say, oh, we need, it'd be really useful if we could have a criminal lawyer, criminal solicitor come in and talk to the students who are the criminology and law students. And part of my role is to try and facilitate those links. But actually more than that, it is about trying to build those deeper connections and relationships, and that's hopefully something that this forum will help facilitate. I've put our email addresses up on the slide here, so please do get in contact with us. I'll also pop them in the chat as well.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Lee. That's brilliant. I was really struck by the stat that you gave there, Carolyn, about us being 121 out of 151. That's quite terrifying. And from my own personal experience with my sort of recruitment hat on, the number of people I see that have no idea what career opportunities are available to them, because without people coming in and explaining to them the different routes and the different pathways, how would they? But yeah, 4 encounters or more means you're 84% less likely to be a NEET, which is incredible, really, isn't it? That's all it takes, 4 encounters. So, you know, we've all got a responsibility. And that's not just businesses as well. I think it's important for people from charities to go and talk to people in schools to talk about, you know, how rewarding it is to work in that sector, because that's a perfectly viable career option as well. And as you said earlier, Paul, where would we have been in the last 18 months without the voluntary and charity sector? You know, thank you. Thanks ever so much for that. Did anybody have any questions or comments for Tanya and Lee before we move on? Just check the other screen. Okay.
Lou, can I just say, one thing I meant to add is just in terms of the level of need, in terms of engaging disadvantaged students. Before the pandemic, the evidence showed that disadvantaged students were probably 18 months behind their peers. And Department for Education have now said that that gap has widened by up to another 75%. So don't want to overplay the significance, I can't overplay the significance of businesses getting involved in this agenda. You know, it helps create a talent pipeline, it broadens horizons, it helps with attainment and aspiration. So, you know, there is a lot of benefits for the volunteers as well in terms of personal development. So, yeah, please do get involved, and we'll use the Powell. Hopefully, Sam, I can use, it was brilliant with the Powell. It looks like a lot of people want to do workplace visits, which we're always crying out for. And then there were an even spread on the other. But hopefully we can identify who said what in the Powell and engage those people. So thank you very much.
Smashing, thank you. Right then, we're going to hear now from Sally Pierce from Sheffield University in Shirecliffe Meadows. And this was a specific project that we put a call out for. So I think there are a number of people involved in helping with this project, but I think this is just a great opportunity to see that the power of collaboration. So I can't see where you are on my screen, Sally, but I know you'll pop up. So over to you.
Okay, thank you, Luke. I'll just share my screen. Second. Oh gosh, let's go back. Okay, yeah, it's great to have this opportunity to talk about the project that Hallam University has been involved in out at Shirecliffe. We're at the other end of the spectrum, and the attainment gap that Carolyn just referred to starts right in the early years. And we know by the time children start school, that gap is already significant and continues and grows as children move through education. And this a Nobel Prize winning economist called James Heckman, who has come up with the Heckman equation that shows that the earlier we intervene and the earlier we invest in children, the bigger the impact. And that is before children enter school. My background is working in early years. It's running a children's centre through a charity in Tinsley for 15 years. And I've seen the absolutely powerful impacts of that early intervention and how it changes outcomes for children. So as part of my role at Hallam University, working in early years, I became involved in something called South Yorkshire Futures, which was Hallam's commitment really to social mobility right across the age range, and I was particularly focused in early years. And we became aware of a project in Shirecliffe run through Save the Children called the Early Learning Community, and their aim was to bring all the early years services together, and working with Watercliff Meadows School and Sheffield City Council. And there came up an opportunity to apply for money from DFE to open up nursery places. And this is a community that faces great social and economic disadvantage, and their nursery closed in the first round of austerity cuts in 2010. So for children in this community, there was no opportunity to start nursery before the school nursery age, even though many of the children were entitled to a place because of the economic situations the families were in. So we worked with the school to sort of add to their capacity to put in a bid to reopen the children's centre nursery that's lay very close to the school. And that bid was successful. And at that stage, we thought that university involvement would really be around that capacity to put the bid in, and then supporting with CPD and training for the practitioners. But then COVID hit and derailed the project. But not, I think finally, COVID has actually almost had a positive impact in terms of the support we've received from, you know, a wide range of businesses, and the way the different partners came together to make sure that we still achieved the vision that we started with. So the school responded to what was happening with COVID, and that really took up their full capacity. And Hallam University at that stage stepped in and said that they would deliver the nursery places once we could get the nursery open. And that was part of their sort of civic ambitions. And as you saw from Carolyn's opening slides, they were on the steering group for Sheffield Businesses Together. So we started to progress the project, and you can see from these photographs that really it was the building and the outdoor in particular was in a very poor state. We had a set amount of money. We went back for additional money because it was when we started the project. Other issues became apparent in terms of work needed in the interior to bring it up to standard, and we essentially ran out of money for the outdoor, and we couldn't access any more through DFE. And at that stage, we'd already started a relationship with Carolyn and Paul, and they said they would welcome sort of a focus on this project because it was aiming to meet so many community needs. And so that's what happened. They put out a call, and we were just amazed with the positive response. Key players such as John Lewis came forward and helped us to equip the inside, because the bid didn't have anything for resources for children, just large furniture items and the refurbishment. A big shout out to Henry Boot. They actually helped us to get the outdoor play into a position where children could start nursery, and we managed to work that in the middle of COVID so that we opened in April this year, and you can see the transformation that's taken place, particularly in the outdoors. They also linked us in with charities, so Toy Bank helped us to get the resources together for the children, both inside and outside. Henry Boot donated. You can see the pallets there. We have tyres donated. All of those things helped children, and they've just responded amazingly. We only had sort of 4 children on the books when we just coming up to opening. Today we have 32 children here, and they're getting an amazing experience. These are some of the children engaged in activities now, and we know if we can intervene this early, we will change outcomes for children. It's the evidence shows that children that are facing disadvantage gain the most benefit from high quality nursery provision, and that's what we've committed to here at the Meadows. It's still absolutely a partnership with the school. We're working to transition the children to their nursery at the end of their experience here. We work with Save the Children, see where we can access other funding to wrap around support for families. And we want to continue that really positive engagement with Sheffield Businesses Together. We couldn't have opened without them in April. It was only with other people coming together to make this a reality that enabled us to do that. And there's still opportunities here. When I see all the other people on this call with equally, important charities, I don't want to, to hog support, but there's still so much to do here in terms of providing places for children. The outdoor play has become a bigger project. We're looking at what we can do to help equip the community garden here, because this is also the base for the community forum. There's still additional resources and there's opportunities to volunteer. But I think if you come and see what the impact has been of Sheffield Businesses Together, you wouldn't be convincing about the importance of getting involved in this, because it really is changing the lives of these young children in Shirecliffe. And I will stop there. I could continue talking all morning about it, but it'd be really interesting to see the reactions of the people here to sort of what they've seen from Tanya and Lee and what the work is that we're doing out here at the Meadows.
Thank you so much, Sally. That made me quite emotional, actually, seeing the little kids there. When you see the before and the after, and like you say, just knowing that collaboration has made that happen. I just think it's brilliant. Anybody got any questions or comments for Sally? Everybody's very shy this morning, which is fine. Sam, can we do the next poll question, please, before we move on? Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to answer that. Before we move on, I'm just checking, did anybody want to ask any questions? Is everybody comfortable with what we've heard so far? I know we just had a question there about being a supporter and a headline sponsor of SBT. I'm conscious we haven't really given you the context about what that means. So just in terms of, I mentioned at the very beginning that when we founded, we've got John Lewis, Arm, Arup, Henry Boot. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. I can see those answers there. It's a nice spread. Yeah, John Lewis, Henry Boot, Arm, Arup, Irwin Mitchell were all supported at the beginning of the project. And that allowed us to do what we've done so far. Since we've partnered since June, we're looking to scale what we do. So we are looking for more supporters, which is where a business basically comes on board like a headline sponsor. So they financially would contribute, and in return for that, they are named as a headline supporter of Sheffield Business Together. So that means, you know, their logo can go on all our literature, on the website, they're profiled on everything, and the SBT auto signature, so that they as an organisation can show that they're supporting that charity, and obviously they can offer all those opportunities to their staff. And I think somebody said it earlier about, you know, volunteering and doing work. It's good for the end user, but it's good for you. And there's loads of psychology books, isn't there, about how, you know, doing good deeds brings more joy to your own life. So from a selfish point of view, it's good for you as well. Right, lovely. Can we come to you then, Jack, as an amazing supporter? Henry Boot have been involved in a wide variety of projects, but we're going to hear specifically about some of the work that Henry Boot have done, and hopefully this will help encourage some of the businesses on the call to think about whether they could lean in like Henry Boot have done. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Just checking you can see my screen, Lou. Fantastic. Yeah, thank you very much, and it's lovely to be here this morning, and particularly lovely to follow on from Sally. The Shirecliff Meadows project was, I would say, one of the most meaningful projects we've been involved in as a business. So it's so nice to see the outcomes of that. Lots of friendly faces on the call this morning, so loads of people I know already, but for anyone who doesn't know me, I am Jack Kidd, a responsible business manager at Henry Boot, and feel quite privileged actually, because I've been with Henry Boot for just over a year, and prior to that I actually worked for St Luke's Hospice for 5.5 years. So I've worked in the voluntary sector in Sheffield and kind of witnessed firsthand how vibrant and proactive that voluntary sector is, but also how much it does need corporate support, and really not just support but partnership to solve some of the experiences and issues facing our communities in Sheffield. So just to kind of give a little bit of background about Henry Boot and why I'm talking to you today. So Henry Boot were a founding member of Sheffield Business Together back in 2018, and we are a PLC business. So we're a group of companies operating across the property and real estate sector, and based in Sheffield but operating across the UK. So hopefully most people have probably heard of us, and if not, you'll have probably driven past our headquarters on Axel Road, which people kind of fondly call the castle, although it has been covered in scaffolding over the past few months, but thankfully that's about to come down, so you'll be able to see it again soon. So we were founded in Sheffield in 1886, have a really strong connection to the city and the region, and obviously celebrating 135 years of working in the city. We employ local people, we work with local people. The city and the city region is incredibly important to us, and responsibility is also incredibly important to us. You know, it's as a business with that heritage and you know, the kind of scope of operations we now have, it's essential that we collaborate with our community, charity and education partners to really get under the skin of actually how can a business like ours not only be commercially successful, but actually how can we be successful in a non-financial way. And what I mean by that is how can we be genuinely responsible to those who we work alongside. So membership of Sheffield Business Together for us forms a really important element of our responsible business strategy. It's something our organisation is fully bought into. So my colleague Darren, who's our group finance director, a very kind of senior person within our business, sits on the steering board of Sheffield Business Together alongside myself. So it's something we've got real commitment to as Henry Boot. And our experience of Sheffield Business Together has been really positive. And I think something that somebody said earlier was that there's a range of charities in Sheffield, and there's some fantastic charities of all sizes, just as there are fantastic businesses of all sizes. But one of the kind of brilliant things about SBT membership for us is it really connects us and our people to not only the larger organisations and charities in Sheffield, but actually some of the grassroots causes and organisations as well. So Paul mentioned Adira, City of Sanctuary, some of these kind of smaller charities and organisations that we might naturally and kind of on our own find quite difficult to connect with. So SBT provides that bridge, which is fantastic. And what that means is we can connect our employees with the issues and experiences that their own communities face. Only recently, my brother texted me and said, "Oh, I've just walked past a small charity called City of Sanctuary and seen you support them." So it's great to see that actually it's getting our kind of connection to the community really out there, which is brilliant. What I would say is, I've just talked about how Henry Boot are quite a large business, and we are, we've got 500 people and we work across the UK, but it doesn't matter if you're a humongous multinational corporate or you're a one-man band. There is genuinely something that any business of any scope can contribute here. And the brilliant thing about SBT is it connects the needs of organisations with the abilities of businesses. So it could be the larger scale projects like Shirecliff Meadows, where you can bring in kind of real professional experience. Or it could be, if you know somebody that's got really brilliant skills on social media, they can create a social media strategy for a local charity that just doesn't really understand it. So you don't have to have huge levels of resource or a responsible business manager like me to be able to support this. This can be done by any kind of business, whatever the scale. And we've been involved in some really brilliant campaigns. So as well as providing financial support, actually some of the best support we've provided and enjoyed providing is the pro bono side. So Sally mentioned Shirecliff Meadows. We've enjoyed supporting the food bank campaign and the City of Sanctuary development. And for me, what's been a real privilege to see is watching my colleagues utilise their experience and utilise their skills to give back and actually really enjoy doing it. So whether it's been the kind of construction project managers working on the Shirecliff Meadows and working with our supply chain to really redevelop that outside space, or, as Paul mentioned earlier, finance team colleagues who are far better at spreadsheets than I'll ever be, and we're able to support in that way. So it's really about utilising people's skills and what they enjoy. We've also really found a lot of value in supporting a range of education partners, and I know Tanya and Lee did a great job earlier about talking about that. Education engagement for us is critical. We work in an industry that hasn't necessarily always found it easy to attract a diverse range of people. And so actually kind of offering really good careers education and guidance for us is commercially critical for the future of our workforce. But it also means that we're connected with those local schools, colleges, universities that are just doing such great work. So we've provided enterprise advisors, resources and career education collaborations. And it's just been absolutely brilliant to see how impactful that can be. To kind of give an example, I got a quote back from a school. One student had heard from one of our paralegals, and they then went on to say, "Do you know what, I want to be a paralegal for Henry Boot." And I just think, the impact of one person hearing a careers talk can completely change their path. We were also a key partner of the Green Fences project, which Carolyn mentioned earlier. And there's a business that has got net zero carbon at the top of our priority list, been involved in a project like that within our own city, kind of, making sure that young children weren't exposed to air pollution was a fantastic thing to be part of. So I hopefully have kind of covered off some of this already, but, I think every single business in Sheffield has a method or a means of getting involved with Sheffield Business Together. And there's so many reasons. It's a fantastic way to demonstrate your responsible business practice, to your partners, to your clients, to your customers. It's a fantastic way to really show what you're about. You will create genuine and authentic community connections, and you never know where that's going to lead you. It can lead to some such fantastic opportunities for your employees to get involved in some really exciting projects. And at a time when probably more than ever as we come back from COVID, employee engagement and health and wellbeing is so critical to get right. What a fantastic way to utilise your workforce, but also get them out of their usual surroundings, enjoying themselves, and as Lou said earlier, feeling the benefit of doing something good for somebody else. And there is commercial imperative to this. We certainly find that as a values-driven organisation, when we go out to recruit new employees, particularly younger members coming into the workforce, they really want to understand your values. They want to make sure you match what they're about, and being involved with an organisation like this is a great way to demonstrate that to them, but then also to retain the fantastic talent we've got within the business as we're offering them great opportunities. And it is all about impact. You know, so much of what we are asked to explain now as a business is how are we genuinely showing impact. And, you know, I think kind of particularly around volunteering, I think corporate volunteering for such a long time has been, you know, it's so easy to treat as a bit of a tick box exercise. It's getting people out to do that one-off day. And actually there's so much more we can do with it. And it's about pairing what charities and organisations genuinely need with the skills you have. But I think probably the most important point for me, and what we've got so much out of this is creating partnerships with like-minded businesses. So the other businesses on the steering group, the other businesses we've worked with, we achieve so much more together than we can achieve on our own. And I think Paul mentioned that kind of that disconnect that was there before, and I feel like that's changing. And as Sheffield recovers from COVID, we're going to need businesses and the voluntary sector to collaborate more closely than ever before. So it is about creating those long-term partnerships. So that's me. I will I'll stop talking now, Lou, and hand back.
Thank you, Jack. To be fair, I could listen to you for the rest of the morning. I think it's amazing.
Far too kind.
No, but it's amazing what Henry Boot have done. You know, there's been so many different projects that you've been involved in. So, you know, we're incredibly grateful. I think you make a really good point, you know, about staff attraction, staff retention, you know, and that goes all across the board. But we're seeing, aren't we, at the moment, that people are, I think a stat I read was around 60% of people are considering a career change this year, which is a lot of movement. And, you know, for various reasons, which we'll not get political about, there are less available staff here. And so there's an element of people are robbing Peter to pay Paul. So for the first time in years, at Benchmark, we've had candidates come through that will ask, you know, what's their CSR policy? You know, what work are they involved in? What social outcomes, what social action, you know, and that's not something I've seen before. So I think being able to evidence and demonstrate that as an organisation, you know, you're involved in projects, I think is really helpful. Now, before we move on to next steps, I just wanted to check, does anybody have any questions specifically for Jack or any of the other people that we've heard speak this morning? Oh, Lorna, you've got your hand up. Yes.
I have, yeah. Just a quick one. This is more for on behalf of my membership and our membership as a whole. For the people sort of that want to get involved, but not necessarily want to have a big sort of time involvement, how can they easily access what is available? So how can they look and see what is going to be available this week or next week for them that meets their particular timescales, aspirations, the amount of hours they can give or what they can give? So where can they actually find this information easily and quickly?
Thank you, Lorna. Carolyn, are you happy to take that?
Yeah, we try. What we find works best is, one, making things really easy for business to engage, but trying to have more directed and focused opportunities where we know that it fits with the business's CSR objectives or their business, because we feel that rather than that scattergun approach, it works best. But so we have targeted requests to business and where we've had a conversation and understand what they'd likely to be get involved with. We're also just looking with the chamber about how we put those in the newsletter format, because we have a pipeline report every week that my colleague Karen, who leads on the voluntary sector sustainability and the engagement with charities, we put it together between us. We have a pipeline report that goes out. So I think we can do better in terms of how we get that out there in an accessible format. But a lot of the connections will come through the account managers at the chamber understanding their businesses. We've got a big network ourselves, but yeah, we will look at maybe having something on the chamber website. I think you're already looking at that, Lou, about publicising the opportunities if people want to have a quick look. But just picking up on what Jack said, I think the beauty of SBT is, you know, I go to Henry Boo and that they've been amazing, but there is some opportunities that are the right time and the right thing, and there are some that aren't. And having that opportunity to dip in and out when things are right for you is what SBT gives. And there's no pressure, but it's having that relationship and trust. Does that answer the question?
Thank you. I just lost my mute button there. Yeah, Paul, I'll come to you. Yeah, on the there is going to be in the Chamber Hub on the website. So the opportunities will be in the Chamber Hub, which is Chamber members. But yeah, something that we've, since we launched in June, something we've identified is to like reflecting and adapting a nice weekly bulletin with the request. And that will be something that we put out across social media as well. So it's not just Chamber members that will see it. But to your point, Lorna, yeah, just making it easy for people to see what's coming up this week, this month, so they can start to kind of plan ahead. Paul, did you want to just add a comment?
Yeah, just as a response, Lorna, there's a good push and pull here in that charities aren't going to ask for something that they don't think they can get. And if you say, what can a business offer? Nobody really knows. Within the voluntary sector, no one really knows what they can ask for. And we've been shaping that over the years to help refine that. And we work with charities. That takes quite a lot of time to help a charity work out what is a reasonable request, what's a likely request. But whatever you can do as a business to say, these are the skills we've got, this is the sort of thing that we can do with our members, with a resource. If that comes to us, then it helps us inform the charities and saying, these are the, to kind of, particularly among smaller business charities who are so busy, they're like, I haven't got time to kind of create a request form for something that may or may not happen. So the more that you can do to say, actually, these are our skill sets, this is what we could offer to the voluntary sector, this is how we see ourselves helping, and how we can make best use of our skills, then that means that when we're talking to charities, we can say, if you ask for this, I think you can get it. Whereas at the moment, it's a bit of a, if you ask for this, you may or may not get it, and I couldn't really say what the timescale is. And so for a lot of charities, they're like, well, I don't want to waste my time on that. I want something concrete. So whatever business can do to say, we can do this, that will really help us with making best use of charities' time and putting the requests together.
Thank you, Paul. I've just popped Karen's email in the chat box as well. So if there's a charity or a business on this call that wants to find out more about getting involved, then there's an email address there, which is Karen, who's the broker. Because as you say, Paul, the real beauty of this whole partnership, we don't use technology. That was an option. We could have used a technology platform that would just put things out there and people would just, but actually it's human beings actually assessing the requirement and then matching personally to the business. So that's the beauty of it. And that's why, to your point, Jack, you can actually get involved with things that are meaningful and mean something to your organisation that genuinely have wide-reaching outcomes. Before I move on, I want to just give Martin the chance. Martin sat very patiently and listened to us all talking today. Martin and I co-chair Sheffield Business Together, so I do just want to give Martin a chance to just give his thoughts. But were there any other questions or comments for any of the panelists or any of the contributors today? Just flick to my screen. Okay, Martin, before we wrap up then, can I just come to you?
Yeah, thanks, Lou, and maybe so a bit more thinking time will help people to maybe come up with a couple of questions. I just want to say thank you to you for chairing. Thank you to all the contributors as well. I think as co-chair, it makes me feel incredibly proud to be reminded of all of the work that's been done through Sheffield Business Together over the last 18 months in particular, and how we've supported charities and communities through the COVID crisis. And my journey with SBT started as part of my role working for John Lewis in the city. And although John Lewis has now departed, sadly, I am staying involved with SBT because I'm incredibly proud of the work that they do and believe in the work that they do as well, and the philosophy of partnership and coming together to make such a huge benefit to the community in which we live and work. So I really hope that today's session has given you some inspiration to get involved if you're a business, has given you an opportunity if you're a charity or community group, you know you've got an organisation to reach out to, and hopefully we can work together increasingly over the coming months as our partnership with the Chamber evolves, and hopefully there's even more positive impacts that we can make. So thank you again for joining us. It's been great to meet you all virtually, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to do events like this in person, and we can come together in more sort of normal ways perhaps. But thank you for now, and as I say, I hope this has inspired you to get involved further.
Thanks ever so much, Martin. Before we wrap up, Carolyn, I just thought now would be a perfect opportunity to just perhaps outline a couple of the projects that we've got in the pipeline, a couple of sort of outstanding requests that people might want to consider. Hopefully everyone's comfortable that in terms of next steps, you know, if you want to find out more, then there's some email addresses in the chat box, which hopefully everybody's got access to. If for any reason you haven't got access to the chat, then, you know, please just speak to myself or one of the chamber account managers, or Paul or Karen. We're all here to help, so any one of us will point you in the right direction. But yeah, Carolyn, I just thought it might be helpful to just give an idea of some of the upcoming things that we're looking to support.
Yeah, in terms of helping charities, we've got a few outstanding requests. We've got one from Snowdrop, who are a human trafficking charity as well, wanting help with internal refurbishment and damp proofing, and they want design and build for their help with design and build of their roof garden. City of Sanctuary, similar requests. We get quite a lot around painting, decorating, but I think they want support around IT setup. And then the big one that we're running, Lou, that we would really love businesses to get behind is in support of Modern Slavery Month in October, is the City of Sanctuary campaign. And we're asking businesses to donate and the people, because I think this is a real collective effort, and it's something that can either be done on your premises, and there's a list of items to put a pamper package together for a survivor of modern slavery who have, you know, they've experienced unimaginable suffering. And talking to City of Sanctuary, you know, when they move into their safe house and they get a pamper package, a bit of chocolate or slippers, they feel valued. And it helps on that road to recovery. So we've got a whole, if people want to email me, I've got posters for you to display in your businesses. You can drop off at Waitrose, Meadowall, the Chamber at Cubo, or Voluntary Action Sheffield. You can donate from a list. Super easy to get involved. So I'll put my email address in the chat. So they are some around voluntary sector. On the school front, we're just going to call out to the creative and digital industries to give kids, we're from the art curriculum, about artistic skills and how they're used in business. And we did a general shout out, or any business can get involved, about promoting your sector, doing an hour's talk, including questions about your sector. What are the route ways in, the jobs available? Because a lot of the kids in the schools and colleges not even been to the other side of Sheffield. So in terms of broadening horizons, we want to get as many businesses in there to tell the kids about the opportunities that are on offer. Two that I'm having a nightmare with that really need help is getting kids want to do a World of Work visit in a hairdresser's or a garage, and that's from Fair Vale. So anybody who can help with that, we've got connections with hairdressers or garages who can do a World of Work visit to show the kids the range of things that happen in those businesses and what qualifications you need, how you apply. I really love to hear from people, but they're the I think they're the main ones at the minute. ISRAC is another who are upgrading and decorating the main hall. And Sheffield Volunteer Centre want telephone and admin skills training. So anybody who can help with that. But I'll put my email in the chat as well around the modern slavery campaign. I can share. We've got a lot of collateral businesses can use to support that. Hope that's helpful.
Really helpful. Thanks ever so much, Carolyn. I've been keeping an eye on the chat and trying to contribute where I can throughout the call. I just want to come back. So Phil is on the call from Help Sheffield and The Social. This is just a blatant plug, but Mark Powell, who is involved with Yes to Ventures, is on the Common Purpose Advisory Board with me, and he told me about Everything But the Meat. If you haven't tried it yet, you need to check it out. So it's a kitchen that's run out of the social, and it employs people that might struggle to get meaningful employment otherwise. But they're amazing chefs, and they deliver to your house a Sunday dinner with everything but the meat. It's 15 quid. It was enough for 4 people. It was only supposed to be for 2, but it fed all 4 of my family. And you just do the meat. And I just thought it was incredible. Yeah, so I'm just giving that a blatant plug because it was like a 9-piece Sunday dinner with cauliflower cheese and roast potatoes and all the job lot. And my kids said it was the best Sunday dinner they'd ever had. So Phil had just asked me in the chat how I'd heard about it. That's how I'd heard about it. So slightly off topic, but so we're slightly early, but I know everybody is busy and life is crazy, so I'm sure everyone is probably grateful for 15 minutes back, so I'll not keep people unnecessarily. Just if any further questions or comments, I'll just double check, but hopefully we've given a flavour today of, you know, the type of work that Sheffield Business Together is involved in, the type of organisations that have been supporting, you know, the type of charities that have been recipients. Hopefully you feel comfortable, you've got clear next steps in terms of who you need to speak to if you want to get more involved. So, you know, please reach out. As we said at the very beginning, you know, it has been a really tough 18 months, and we do know in Sheffield, you know, we have got the reality that if you get on a bus at one side of Sheffield, it's a 15-year age gap between the other side of Sheffield. And I think we actually have a really unique opportunity now to galvanise the momentum that came out of the pandemic. You know, we're working in a way as a city, you know, public, private and third sector collaboration that's I've never seen before, and that's really encouraging. And, you know, just having you all on this call this morning, this volume of interest around what we're doing is so encouraging. And like you said, Martin, it makes me feel so proud to hear from Longley Park and Shirecliffe Meadows and Henry Boot, just about what we've achieved so far, and, you know, what we can achieve with greater support. So, you know, I look forward to speaking to you all in the future. Thanks ever so much again for your time, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks ever so much.